I don't really bother myself with being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
Oh,
It's
please,
always gonna
man.
reduce you to a
They love
point.
their
So if you-
labels until it's time for them to be labeled.
So it says, unless you're a billionaire, religious fundamentalist, or a xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake. That's the prompt.
Okay.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so I would like to touch on the religious fundamentalist aspect.
Yeah.
Are you an atheist?
I'm a Reformed Jew. I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Okay, so what's wrong with religious fundamentalists? So like when you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us. And I
see, right there is the part where you lose me instantly. So sure, there are plenty of people who would like to impose religious views on other people. There's no question about that. But the people sitting in Sam's seat, my problem with them is they refuse to accept that the entire founding of the country, our documents and everything else, is based on the Judeo-Christian ethic. So it's like that's what he sees as being told what to do by a fundamentalist, is the same ethics that he derived, as a child growing up, and that he still believes in, but he doesn't want to admit where they came from. And so many of these people do the same thing.
I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference. So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequentialist, utilitarian.
I don't really bother myself with being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
Oh, please,
it's always
man.
gonna
They
reduce you to a
love
point.
their
So
labels until it's time for them to be labeled. And then suddenly they don't like labels anymore. They don't want to be tied down to anything in particular.
And he said that he has a foundation for his morality, but he doesn't say what the foundation is, which is exactly what I just explained.
So it's preference, like this guy literally started with. You're just choosing to be a good person.
It's either
think is a good person.
Yes and no, but what you think is a good person is based on the way you were raised, and the way that you were raised is in the country with a certain set of a moral guideline that we have. So you were raised with those same beliefs based on the Judeo-Christian ethic. You just don't accept that as the basis for the ethic. And then you want to claim that it's just a naturalist thing, like you could just derive it out of thin air.
It's almost like a weird extra flex. Like they're almost more proud of themselves because they claim they just choose to be a good person. Their morality comes from themselves, not from anything else. It's a very weird kind of narcissistic take almost.
Say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Well, no, I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion.
Okay, there you go,
and so we have a civil society. Okay. We have laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean it would be
morally right under your view.
Not morally right. No. I'm not talking about morals.
Okay,
here.
so here's where I'm getting to, right? Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off.
I believe you can have an ethical framework without religion.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates. You have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple. Religion provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people being married?
It's not that I have a problem. I just don't see a justification for why they ought to be gay outside of it just feels good. Can you give me another justification for it?
Well, I think maybe that's the way they were born.
Okay, what about pedophiles? Are they born that way?
They may be, yeah.
Okay, so should we let a pedophile off the hook since they were born that way?
No, I think we as a society has decided...
Should implement duties to prevent them from acting on that innate urge, correct?
Well, I think between consenting adults, it's a different thing than...
Okay, so you're okay with a
children.
45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter as well? Incest.
No.
If they consent, you're okay with that?
No, I think society has also determined that it's like it's not beneficial.
Right, there's duties and obligations that we have, so religion provides those duties. Life isn't about freedom and exercising what you want.
I think that's a really interesting point. I think his logical conclusion is that, like, you should train people not to be gay. And that's always been like a super huge question about the nature of being gay, whether it's like it is a choice or you're born that way, et cetera, or, you know, what factors in your life. There's no question that some gay people, you know, is a trauma-based thing, you know, from their childhood. Some of them totally natural, you know, and probably the larger percentage is more of a natural thing. But it is an interesting point to raise, you know, if we've deemed certain behaviors as unacceptable as a society, why not other behaviors?
Yeah, I'm paying attention to the way like Sam Sedar's phrasing everything. It's all like from the perspective, a lot of it's from the perspective of society has deemed, you know, not really any of like his own views on any of these things either. So it just kind of just more shows how he's just sort of swaying with the breeze.
Well, exactly. He's passing the buck. He's like, well, I'm not going to say it. It's just what we've deemed as a society, instead of getting to his personal beliefs.
I think there's probably situations where gay people, like, something is just different a little bit, like as complex as the brain is, we don't really understand it. Some of them probably there's something going on there that is just different from birth, and then other people, you could I think you could very easily make the claim it's a fad. People are choosing to act this way. It's like,
nowadays,
why else do they act that way? You know, like you talk about like the way gay people act, and everyone knows what you mean immediately. It's like they all act the same.
Stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason, you know?
Right, and it's not a rude thing just to point that out. It's like, okay, they all have this same kind of thing that they do, and it's like that doesn't really mimic anyone else, any other group out there. It's like they're choosing to act a certain way, whether they started off that way from birth or not. Because there's plenty of gay people out there that are also totally, they're just the most normal people in the world, and it's just they prefer, you know,
what they prefer.
A partner of the same sex. Yeah, they prefer what they prefer. But you know, it's just I want these people to just for once say what they think too. Like, what do you really feel? Don't just keep pushing everything on to keep passing the buck, as you said. Don't just keep pulling in like what everyone seems to think, 'cause that's so nebulous, and it doesn't really, it's just hard to communicate that way when you don't make it clear like what your foundation is. And that's what they're getting at here. I like how this guy's putting things together.
Yeah, it's really, really smart.
I mean, well, you want to impose your religious doctrine on me, and I don't want that.
You just admitted we need duties. We have responsibility as a society to keep us functioning, to keep us thriving. Your leftist view, the liberal view, doesn't provide anything besides it just makes me feel good. Religion does. So what's your argument?
What's my argument as to why I don't want
you have no
your
contention.
religion to... Well, because first of all, I don't think that you have the right to corner what God is telling us is right or wrong. And
how about the scripture tells you? How about you read the book? Yeah, and it just tells you. Shit. It's not like I'm telling you. No, I'm telling you what the book says, and you're trying to ascribe that to my personal interpretation of what the book says. That's just taking that extra step that doesn't need to be taken. That's the part that's just that is, again, it goes back to the first thing we talked about. It's like he wants to believe that the way that people who are religious, or just even the way that the country was founded and the morals that we've adopted as a society have been derived on an interpretation of the Bible as opposed to the Bible itself. You know, not everything in the Bible is literal, not everything in the Bible is figurative, but there's enough there that you can determine which is figurative, which is literal, and the literal things are pretty easy to understand.
There are differences between religions.
There should be, you know, just follow the way that is natural, that is most preserving of life and of the environment around us. I digress.
My argument is, like, you're not going to keep halal or kosher, right? I mean, I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we didn't want a king. And the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king. And so we can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious fundamentalism.
And if I do, you have no issue with that.
And no. And this is why I say, under Trump, yes, you have won.
Yes.
You have a
Only
bunch
male
of Christian.
and female. You're right.
You have a Christian nationalist,
which is necessary.
And so I concede the point that under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage under this.
Sorry, we're going to have more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have more families.
It's so weird. They don't think about. It's like they take religion and it's about someone trying to tell them what to do. It is. How about like they don't look at it as like it is creation. It is how we all came to be here. That's the story that the Bible tells, and it tells us the way that the creator of everything we know. It's like they're just doing this in a different. They're calling it science. It's just but in science they're a little more narrow-minded because they only listen to the people that are getting the most funding, that are publishing all the studies and this and that. They outsource all their critical thinking. They leave no room for faith or for hope or anything like that. It's like, no, it's all got to be empirical, or otherwise, pharma.
Right.
On and on.
Well, I think in general that's not the worst thing. It's just, but there's got to be nuance to certain situations. Like many things are empirical. Many things do depend on the numbers, but not everything. And morality is one of those things where it's like, how do you determine morality empirically? You don't. There is. I think it's weird because as far as I'm concerned, there is no innate morality of human beings. You see human beings with different religious philosophies or none at all, and different cultures across the world, and they don't act the same. They don't create the same laws. They don't create the same society, So there is clearly a superior version of society, right? And we believe that we live in it. You have to take note of where that was derived from.
It's almost like morality at the most basic point is like violence or not violence. At the most base level of humanity, are you going to be violent to people that you don't agree with, or are you going to find a way not to be violent with them? That's like it seems like a very fundamental form of morality. And then a lot of other things, we implement as sort of a social construct that we all, or a contract, I suppose I should say, that everyone kind of agrees to, is like, these are in the best interest of all people to do here in the United States. We should all live this way, right?
Right. And that's what's interesting about the time that we live in, is that you are seeing more of this ideology or ideological based violence going on. It's almost like we avoided that for so long, outside of major incidents, right? You have like MLK Jr. is assassinated, JFK is assassinated, stuff like that. Like singular incidents of a main figurehead, but generally, soon before 9/11, at 9/11, you could see the country coming together, and generally people are a lot less hostile of people with opposing opinions. And now you're starting to see that, excel again. It's starting to accelerate more and more political violence, or just ideological based violence. And it makes you wonder, at a time when there are so many social contagions going on, there is so much divisiveness, in the political realm and otherwise, but and then also just the lack of religion throughout the society is leading people to believe that this type of stuff is moral if you're doing it for the right reasons. So you start hurting people for the wrong reasons, but you think that it's justified. And so we're seeing more and more of this violence that is really what we've been able to in the past put to the side.
I think it's tough too when like you bring the internet into the picture, and suddenly everyone's world gets much, much bigger. So now people are paying attention to issues that 30, 40 years ago you wouldn't have even known existed. So now people are making their identities totally different from whatever environment they're raised in. It's not just like how their parents raised them anymore. It's like also what kind of content they're consuming really determines who these people are going to be, which makes it that much easier for people to get super, I don't know, just like super tunnel vision on their own beliefs, super intense on certain things. Like the weirdest hills. People will choose the weirdest hills to die on.
Yeah.
That is like the defining characteristic of their eternal struggle that they're dealing with, which I find super weird. But what this guy's getting at is that like religion has just such a taste to it, like even just that word, but like such a connection, it's a relationship with the Creator that he's referring to that gives billions of people around the world a feeling of strength and security, and just like a source of hope and just
purpose,
energy to just keep going, purpose day by day, just to keep trying to fight the good fight, however tough things get. And I just instantly get, I didn't grow up with a religious background or anything like that, but looking at it nowadays, after experiencing what I've experienced and whatnot, it's like it makes me really weirded out by the people that are arguing against religion. It just seems kind of odd to me.
Yeah, totally agree.
An advantage under this.
Sorry, we're going to have more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have more family. We're going to have stable family households. Sorry about better education.
People, gay people should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be straight.
Women should be secondary to their husbands.
Women should submit to the husbands. That doesn't mean they are slaves. It doesn't mean they are slaves. It means they are protected. Okay, let me ask you that.
That is such an important point. The way that he just so quickly dissected that, it doesn't mean that they should be slaves. It means that they should be protected. Right? The duty of a woman in the Bible is to be submissive to their husband, and the duty of a husband is to protect their wife and children. So it's not like the woman, the way that people consume the word submissive it has just such a negative connotation in the day and age that we live
inferior.
in. Yes, yeah, exactly. They infer that word, even though it doesn't make it's not the intention. Right, it's just giving them a duty, and then it's giving the man, shortly after that, their own separate and equally as important duty. So I just loved how quickly he was able to refute that point, even though Sam's talking over him and probably didn't hear what he said. It was very well done.
Just goes into spin mode. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. They should be
Women should be secondary to their husbands.
Women should.
And the way that he says secondary instead of submissive.
So condescending.
Submit to the husbands. That doesn't mean they are slaves. It doesn't mean they are slaves. It means they are protected. Okay, let me ask you that. Let me ask you.
No.
Should women be drafted? Should women be drafted?
Listen, I think
if they're equal, should they be drafted?
I think this is the vision that you have, and I think Trump supports it. Yes. I think the Christian nationalists he has throughout his government are all going to work towards your vision.
Yes.
And my hope is that when people look at this, they say, hey, wait a second. I don't want my life to be dictated by the notion of a Christian nationalist prescription. Now, you may win out. I mean, certainly, like if you look at a country like Iran, they have a theocracy there, and apparently that's good for them if they want it.
He's comparing religious America to Iran.
Yeah, and what I want to know too is at the beginning of this conversation, he said he doesn't want religious fundamentalism dictating his politics or his country, etc. But he also doesn't think that religion is bad, or at least entirely bad, or something. Whatever he said, I want to know what he actually. Again, we never get to it, but I want to know what he actually thinks about religion. What does he like? What does he dislike? Because it's like this guy, he's not agreeing with what this guy says clearly, but like what this guy's saying, in my mind, makes total sense. I want to know what he actually disagrees with. All he's saying is, whatever this gentleman's name is, he's making a point, and then he'll say, well, with Trump, you're going to get it, but I don't think we should have it. Okay, why? I want some sort of explanation as to why what he's saying is wrong. I just don't understand.
Also consider the setting. Like the whole point here is to corner this dude. Like he's
Sure.
literally in the middle of the circle. So you got to imagine anybody in this scenario at not sympathy for Sam Sedar. Like he put himself in here. They must have offered him the right amount or whatever. But anyone in this scenario is going to probably be just a little. They're just under the gun. There's like 25 people surrounding you, looking right at
Sure.
you.
I think it takes a specific
probably
character too. I've seen a lot of these, and they generally do really well, but this one is tough.
But also, it shows how quickly he just reverts to those recycled responses that come on like autopilot, because that's just the way he's allowed his brain to be conditioned over the years.
Right.
It's wild.
But I don't want to live in a
My
theocracy.
final point is, whenever we see people live out Christian values to its full extent, we see a great society. When we see people deviate from that, that's where all the problems arise.
All right,
I think you are at home in the Trump. Trump
Thank you
world.
very much.